Yes, I'm back to continue our geometry practice. So this will be part 3 today. I hope you guys are doing amazing, and I am so thankful that you guys are practicing and growing your brains at home. I am going to start with a quick review of what we kind of did in the first 2 geometry videos so that we are making a strong memory of what we learned, and you'll have that strong memory to work well with your geometry when you go to 3rd grade scholars. So hopefully, let's see, a little focus in here. You remember your angles, so I'm going to start with reviewing with those. The right angle, where it's that L-shaped angle. It has the box symbol in that corner. Okay, common on squares and rectangles, when we talked about that. Always 90 degrees. That's your right angle. Okay, hopefully you remember that. And then, remember the angle we said, oh, it's so cute, because it's our smaller angle. It's not very much opening where the angle is here. That's our acute. Angle. So remember that as well. Okay. And then our obtuse angle. And that obtuse angle starts with the O. And we said one way to remember it is as over large. It's our big angle. Okay. Has that wide gap space in the angle area of that. And obtuse. Okay, so remember your 3 main angles for geometries. Okay, awesome. Okay, and you have your common shapes, your circles, your squares, your rhombus or diamonds, your triangles, rectangles, and then we got into the classifying the shapes as different shapes as quadrilaterals, which are shapes that have 4 sides. So hopefully you remember your sides. I'll show you. Those are your sides, 2, 3, 4. So different kinds of quadrilaterals, the shapes that have those 4 sides, and then those that you can classify as a quadrilateral. The pentagon, which means 5, so something like this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Octagons has 8 sides. Hexagon, 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So remember those, scholars. Remember your parallel lines and parallelograms that have a set of parallel lines. So remember those lines. One in that straight forward direction. If they continue straight or in that path, that forward path, they will not cross. Also can be kind of slanted, but still be lines if they're kind of going like that. Again, have that space in the middle. They're going on that forward path, and if they continue that path forward, then they will never cross. Okay, so remember your parallel lines and parallel shapes that can be considered parallelograms because they have a set of parallel lines. Okay. I want to get into, I said that in this video last, continue seeing some shapes, but then we're going to start sectioning them off, and then this will lead us into your fractions, deeper into fractions for 3rd grade. So I had a line here that I wanted to use as an example. If I can't find it, then I'll use my key. So some language that you need to know, scholars, and starting off, halves. Halves, this represents a shape or figure, okay, that has, it's been sectioned into 2 pieces, okay, 2 equal pieces. So something like that, okay? So these kinds of shapes or figures that have a total of 2 pieces and it's divided equally, these can be called halves. Okay. If I wanted to shade one of the halves, I would write that like this as 1/2. Notice here that the total amount of pieces goes at the bottom and how many shaded out. Okay. So again, called halves. There's even, I was going through your Engage New York book to just to do what you would have done in class with me, kind of how we used to do our math sum together, so we learn it. So no matter the shape, scholars, okay, here's my attempt of a rectangle, but again, halves, okay? If I colored both, it would be 2 halves. Or if I just colored one of them, okay, 1/2. So this language, you'll be hearing terms like halves, thirds, same idea. So instead of it being 2 total pieces, I'm going to try to attempt to make it as even as possible, but it'll be a total of 3 pieces so that you can call it thirds. Okay, you can do shade 1 and it'd be 1/3. You can shade 2 and call that 2/3, and you can shade 3 and call it 3/3. And I'll get into later how 3/3 or 2 halves really equals a whole. I'll show you that a little bit. Okay, so you'd write that, 2/3. A total of 3 pieces there at the bottom, 2 of them shaded. Okay, this is the work, some of the work you would have seen you do. Sometimes they will show you the figure or shape shaded and ask you to write this part. Sometimes they will give you this part, what looks like the fraction part, and then have you represent it physically. So that would look like, if they showed you 2/3, then if they gave you that 2/3 represents 2/3, and they gave you a blank shape and said, I looked in your textbook and it's kind of worded like portion this shape into this 2/3. Okay, so then you would have to kind of use your judgment and guessing kind of to make 3 parts, a little bit of measurement, guessing, make 3 parts the best you can, trying to get them equal, and then 2 of them to show 2/3 would be shaded or however you would mark those. Okay. Fourths is also language through here, and it goes on as you get into 3rd grade. You have 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Okay. But again, that's telling you how many total pieces are going to be represented on the shape. So fourths would be something like this, where you have 4 total pieces. So fourths, and then again, you could do 1/4, 2/4. You would represent that the same way. At the bottom, your total number of pieces there, and then at the top, however many you shaded out. Okay, so there's that. Something tricky I saw is that they give you something shaded. Kind of fun for the brain though, when you have this kind of challenge. So let's do fourths, which means I'm going to have a total of 4 sections on my shape. And then they had some shaded off already, right? So like this was one of the problems. So then they said, what's the little fraction for how many of the sections are not shaded? So usually, they would they start off by saying, show the written expression or fraction for what is shaded. Then they can kind of challenge you a little more to think about what fraction of it is not shaded. Okay, so that would be 1 of the fourths instead of 3/4, and that would look like that. Or they might ask you to finish it and then show it in the number form or something like that. So thinking about that, scholars. Your shapes, your sections, that language, halves, fourths, thirds, okay? And then something I want to show you lastly, hold on a second, is this idea. It's a common misunderstanding. So I just want to show you where you have 4 out of 4, or 3 out of 3, or 2 out of 2, or 2 halves. You would say that, okay? Using that language, okay? These are all in any of the fraction-like expressions that have the same number on the top and the same number on the bottom. These are equal to 1 whole, and people get confused there. It's like, well, it says 3/3, so how does that change to 1? These are all equal to 1 whole. It just means that, and this is you kind of have to, think about what you know here. This just means that, remember, there's a total amount of 4, or total amount of sections goes at the bottom. And since 4 of them are marked off or shaded or used or whatever, then that means the whole thing is shaded. Okay, so don't let those numbers kind of trick your brain up. If there's 4 pieces and 4 of them are gone or 4 of them are shaded, then that means the whole thing is shaded. So don't kind of be tricked when you see something like 4 out of 4 equals 1 whole. Okay, that's why I don't want to use my cake for an example before we go, scholars. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Okay, I cut my cake into 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if I eat all 4 of these pieces of cake, that means I ate 1 whole cake here. Okay, so it's the same with this. Okay, show you that again. I have 4 pieces of cake here. If I eat 4 out of the 4 that are there, that means I ate 1 whole cake. So when you see those fractions, that the same number on the top and the same number on the bottom. Okay, that means they are equal to 1 whole. Okay, all right, scholars. That about does it. Okay, awesome job learning and growing. Have a wonderful day. Teacher misses you. Stay positive. Bye.